because of the specific situation of belonging to a minority, they may need additional rights so that they're not being discriminated. So I will not go into detail on the situation of Pakistan. We have very distinguished speakers that will inform us. But naturally, Pakistan being a large and diverse country, there are many minority issues in Pakistan. We're aware of that. And naturally, as a special reporter on minority issues, I'm eager to learn more about you, the independent experts, the special reporter. We do produce reports and some country reports. We do country visits. Pakistan has not a very, very good record as regards country visit. There only were three, one in 1999, two in 2012. So last week, I met the permanent mission of Pakistan here in Geneva, and I requested, if possible, if accepted by the country, to have a country visit on minority issue. I have not yet got a response, which is quite normal. It's not here in Geneva they decide, they just messenger, it goes to the capital and so on. But we know there is something to be done about minority issues in Pakistan, and I hope I will be able to contribute. To in this human rights architecture at the UN, NGOs have also a very important and special role to play, among others, by organizing events like this one, side events, such an event, and for inviting me. And NGOs are here to inform those who are inside the structure, including special rapporteur, sometimes alert when the situation is very urgent and dire, and unfortunately it happens in many countries, and also document the situation. We, as you said, have an academic career, and so we do have some standards in academia. We do not just write because we have an idea whatsoever. We try to have strong data, strong information, strong reasoning behind whatever we write. And so it's also a very important role of NGOs to document the situation, whether positive or negative. There could be also very positive practice, and I think it's also important that those mechanisms of monitoring human rights are not as mechanism shaming and blaming, but sometimes also as a way to exchange best practice, because again, it's for the state to implement, and maybe state can learn from each other. So I thank very much Global Human Rights Defense for organizing this event. I thank the speaker, and I hope I will learn a lot during this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Professor Laurent. Just a reminder, we cannot have pictures taken in this room apart from the ones who were already, which were already allowed. Okay. So thank you so much for your contributions. It is very good to have this technical and practical acknowledgement about the international human rights mechanisms from your part. And I was very happy to hear about the advancing and the country mission, like to go to the country and the visiting. I think it is very important. And now, next, we have Amara Balok, a lawyer and activist from Cindy. And Amara is a solicitor, advocate specializing in family law, with a particular focus on children and domestic violence. In addition to her full-time role as a lawyer, she serves as a delegate for UN Women UK, where her primary focus is on rights of women, young girls, and refugees. Amara will welcome you to share your insights.
Thank you, Mariana. Women face systematic challenges in Pakistan, including high prevalence of different forms of sexual and gender-based violence, Women and girls from religious minority backgrounds are disproportionately targeted, and specific forms of sexual and gender-based discrimination, such as sexual grooming, abductions, forced conversions, and forced marriages. According to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, around 1,000 cases of forced marriages and abductions of religious minority girls were reported in the province of Sindh alone in 2018. Most of the victims come from economically marginalized backgrounds. The cases of abduction, forced marriage, and forced conversion illustrate how gender, class, economic status, and religious affiliation are deeply entangled. Forced conversions are defined as when the threat or the use of physical, emotional, or psychological violence is used to force a conversion. The reality of conversions and forced marriages in Pakistan is that they go hand in hand. In most cases, a victim is abducted and is then subjugated to sustained emotional and physical abuse and forced to convert. Evidence provided by numerous NGOs, journalists, and academics has shown that abductions and forced conversions are one of the most serious problems facing Hindu and Christian women and girls in Sindh. Minorities often do not receive the protection required from state institutions and lack access to justice. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan reports that the police often turn a blind eye to forced conversion, thereby creating impunity for perpetrators. The police will often either refuse to record a first information report or falsify the information, thereby denying families the chance to take their case any further. The marginalized position of the families of the girls also makes it unable for them to challenge the case in court. The HRCP has found that whilst all citizens in Pakistan face obstacles to access of justice, minority religious groups face even greater difficulties in their pursuit of justice. Both the lower courts and the higher courts of Pakistan have displayed bias and a lack of adherence to proper procedures in cases that involve accusations of forced marriage and forced conversion. As the US Department of State of Human Rights report for 2016 states, the judiciary is often subjected to external influences, such as the fear of violence. In other cases, the judicial officer's personal beliefs often influence them into accepting the claims that the girl converted of her own free will. There is often no investigation into the which the conversion takes place, and the age of the girl is often ignored. The girl involved is largely left in the custody of her kidnapper. The trial process, where she is subject to further threats to force her into denying her abduction and claiming that the conversion was of her own free will. Both the lower courts and the higher courts of Pakistan have failed to follow proper procedures in cases that involve accusations of forced marriage and forced conversion. The high courts of Pakistan have shown a similar lack of disrespect for due process. In 2012, the high-profile case of Rinkul Kumari went before Pakistan's Supreme Court. The family of Rinkul Kumari had launched a petition before the Karachi High Court alleging that she had been abducted and forcibly converted, and that a powerful politician supported her abduction. The husband and his friends insisted that she had voluntarily converted and married. Despite the fact that Rinkle had cried in the civil court and said that she wanted to go home with her parents, the court allowed her husband to take her home. When she appeared before the Supreme Court in April 2012, the court did not take into account that her birth certificate clearly showed that she was below the age of 16, and that a marriage of a child is illegal. Neither counsel was allowed to comment the nature of the conversion or the marriage during the case. The statement made under duress by Rinkle that she wanted to go home with her husband was simply accepted on faith, and despite her previous statements that she wanted to go home, it went ignored. The state had a responsibility to provide protection against individuals who were directly exploiting situations of particular vulnerability. However, as it stands, Pakistan is failing to fulfill their obligations under these international treaties to protect the rights of vulnerable minorities and forced marriages. In 2020, despite criticism from human rights organizations, Pakistan was elected as a member of the UN Human Rights Council, the most important intergovernmental body within the UN system, responsible for the promotion and protection of all human rights around the globe. The members of the Human Rights Council are universal right to change their religion, but there is enough evidence to justify Pakistan has failed with international obligation. The right to freedom of religion is further set out in Article 20 of the Constitution of Pakistan. The Constitution contains several provisions which are in this article guarantees freedom of religion to all citizens of Pakistan and prohibits discrimination based on religion. It also grants individuals the right to profess, practice, and propagate their religion. Article 22. This article ensures that all citizens have equal access to public office and civil service regardless of their religion. Article 25. This article guarantees equal citizenship and rights to all citizens of Pakistan, regardless of their religion, race, caste, or sex. Article 36. This article ensures that those other than Muslims also have the right to freely profess and practice their religion and establish and maintain their places of worship. Article 37 guarantees that the state shall promote and protect the rights of minorities, including their culture, language, and religion. Article 38. This article ensures that the state shall provide special safeguards to minorities that take measures to protect their legitimate interests. These provisions have been designed to safeguard the rights of all citizens belonging to minority groups. In reality, however, there are numerous obstacles to the effective implementation of the constitutional provisions. Pakistan has adopted several international instruments to eliminate child and forced marriage. It ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1990, which sets the minimum age of marriage at 18. It has also ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, which guarantees free and full consent to marriage. However, in 2017, nearly 40% of the population of 20-year-old girls in Pakistan were married before turning 18. In February 2013, following demonstrations in Karachi by political parties and civil society activists, the Sindh government set up a committee to consider legislation to stop forced conversions and forced marriages. The resulting bill addressed many of the problems surrounding forced conversion and forced marriage, as it attempted to mandate specific institutions to be responsible for preventing them, as well as laying down legal guidelines for behaviour in these cases, which would protect the integrity of the court process and enable victims to access justice. It also placed an age limit upon conversions to support existing legislation on age limits for legitimate marriages. In November 2016, the bill was passed unanimously by the Sindh Provisional Assembly. However, till date, the bill has failed to make it into law. In 2020, cases of child marriages were reported by the Pakistan NGO Sahil. Poverty and social norms continue to be key drivers of child and forced marriages in Pakistan. The following cases illustrate the issue in the Sindh province particularly. Amina Ahmed was abducted from Karachi by a group of young men who offered her ice cream and a ride in their car. She was dragged into a larger van and driven to an area family. In 2023, was allegedly kidnapped at gunpoint from her home in the Sindh province in front of her mother and her tutor and his accomplices. Her father filed a complaint with the police saying she was kidnapped. Later, the girl appeared in a video stating clearly under duress that she had converted to Islam and married a Muslim man. In 2024, a married Hindu girl was abducted from the Sindh province and threatened her and told her to convert to Islam. But when she refused, she was raped for 3 days. The victim said that when she returned, she managed to return home after escaping her captors. These are just some examples of young girls who have fallen. Despite calls to stop forced conversion and marriages from the international community and human rights organizations, Pakistan's government still demonstrates a marginal interest in advancing of religion, policy, and dialogue to ensure the safety of minority girls and women in Pakistan. What can be done? We must call for the SIM government, the criminal law protection of minors, failures of the institutional protections of human rights, education on the matter, steps to prevent and thoroughly investigate these acts commitments. Purpose of these acts must be held.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Important information and bring this gender perspective into the discussion, and also bring in action guidelines, which I think it is very important. And now, last but least, we have Jamal Baloch. He is a political from Balochistan and Balochistan and a victim of enforced disappearance. And he, Jamal, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. A very inhuman that we have been going through since 1970s in Balochistan. It is. It has always been used as a form which United Nations believes in is the resolution for the human beings to live in peace. Pakistani forces have always dealt with our people with brutality, with barbarism, with atrocities to silence us. I am one of the unfortunate victims of enforced disappearances. I would say it might be a term for some people to describe something that they have not been through. But for me, enforced disappearances is the tragedy that will keep following you entire life when you go through it. For many people, they see photographs hanging somewhere for justice, their families trying to raise their voices for them, some photographs of people that describe they are forcibly disappeared. For me, they come to reality in an imaginary reality. They come out of those frames, and I see them being tortured, being humiliated in Pakistani torture cells. It is very hard. Neither I want to explain everything what happens in a torture cell because it's traumatic for me to go back to the flashbacks, and it would be traumatic for you also to listen what happens in a torture cell. But I really see every single frame which is hanging in Balochistan being tortured at this moment. There are young people, students. It was day for yesterday, 5 students were forcibly disappeared as young as 13 years old. They're minors. They don't deserve to be forcibly disappeared. They deserve to be there to their schools. But Pakistani forces are practicing this inhuman practice in Balochistan every single day. It has been a routine. When I was 13 years old, my father was picked up in front of my eyes. Imagine, as a 13 years old boy standing looking to the forces dragging his father into their vehicle. I felt so helpless because I couldn't help my father at that moment. And then when I was 17 years old, I was forcibly disappeared just because I was talking of human rights because I did not accept what was happening in my neighborhood. I did not accept what was happening to my people. In Balochistan, as we had previously discussed that Balochistan is not a minority, but it has been turned into minority. It has been occupied by Pakistan, and people do not accept this occupation. They have come up and rose against the occupation of Pakistan, whatever they're doing in Balochistan, the exploitation which is taking place in Balochistan. And Pakistan is always trying to hide one crime and committing is also being humiliated once you are forcibly disappeared. At that moment when you are being picked up, being a human drops at that very moment when you are picked up. And the dehumanization, the process of dehumanization starts when you're possibly disappeared. In torture cells, our existence was reduced to numbers. You're just a number. You're nothing else. And the forces, the Pakistani forces, it's their duty to torture you, to make you do whatever they want. They try to torture you to withdraw from what you believe, the belief that human rights should be for everyone. This is why uh, Balochistan is, I would say, a third world country where the voices generally do not reach to the people and outside world, because Balochistan is also facing a media blackout where the cries of Balochistan can never be heard. The practices, the inhuman practices that Pakistan is committing do Pakistan because it's very brave and inhuman. Thank you.
Be it out the just held in this case and become for experts and victims to share their insights. And now, in the name of the GHRD, as a representative, I'm gonna quickly present some key findings of our recent report that was prepared by our research team. So, I have an overview of the situation, the human rights situation in Pakistan, and in the over past 2 years, so 2023 and 2024. So this report brings to light the alarming increasing on the human rights violation, with this particular focus on the challenges faced by political descendants, religious minorities, and other vulnerable groups. And it reveals how these violations not only persisted, but also in many cases have worsened. So I will walk you through these main findings to offer you a database perspective on this critical. And so as you can see in both, we are gonna see also in the next slide, but both years, like 2023 and 2024, we have Whitman and the military have intensified their crackdowns on dissident and political opposition, contributing to an environment where human rights abuses have become more frequent. Sorry. These include, as it was mentioned, experiences, arbitrary arrested, and severe restrictions on peaceful protests, all taking places with little or no. In 2023, can you come back to the? Thank you. The main human rights violations that we tracked on Pakistan was, as you can see, enforced disappearances, violence and women. It was already explored during this event. Rights of refugees and migrants violated. The violation of freedom of expression. This includes not only the prisons, the harassment of journalists, but also the of expression and protests. So as you can see, the freedom of peacefully assembly is also one of the main violations. The arbitrary arrests and detentions. And in the next year, 2024, we can see that some of these main please make your question. No, sorry.
Um, Thank you, everyone. My name is Nana Haja. I'm from the Foundation in the Islam institution. What I wanted to just say is that thank you very much for all of your insights. This is very much important for us to actually fight global racism, for us to come together and to actually put human rights at the center. I just wanted to say to Jamal, you mentioned something that third world people. There is no third world. And that is something I want us to keep in mind because language matters. There is no third world. There is no second world anywhere. It's just only one world. And it is one human race, one world, and just different cultures. That is all we are. And we need to start claiming that. And I think it is very, very important for us to use language and to stop using follow the past and continue addressing actually who we are. So
Thank you very much for your comment. Someone else has any questions? Hi, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Sufi Lagari, and I'm from the Sindh. I would say that not province of Pakistan, but occupied by Pakistan. And Sindh is suffering in Pakistan. What you present is very brief about the human rights violation in Pakistan. But especially if you look at these Balochistan, Afghanistan, Sindh is really literally going a genocide. And if the real United Nations take a steps, Pakistan should not be here. The membership should not be get the membership. Thousands of people of the Balochistan has disappeared, and thousands of people are actually extrajudicial killings, and still many are under torture. And every year, thousands of girls are forcibly conversions. And just a week ago, not even a week, few days ago, Pakistan is promoting the extremism, fundamentalism, terrorism all over the world, not only in the Sindh, Balochistan, and Pakistan. The situation is very sad. So I would recommend that United Nations must take steps like a special envoy to send a fact-finding mission. Pakistan is representing the OIC and representing Islamic country, not only with the Hindus, or Christians, or Buddhists, or Ahmadis, or Baloch, or Sindhis, or Saraikis. But if you look at the Pakistan's index, is the corruptions and so much kind of the. If go and Google, you can find a lot of facts and figures and data. It will be very sad situation.
Thank you, Mr. Hagari, contribution. If someone else have any questions, we have time for more questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Manish. I'm also from the Global Human Rights. I heard your stories. Thank you very much. On one hand, we have the right, the human rights. On the other hand, we have our rights agreed to our own perspective and to justify whatever action we take against certain people. In your activities, did you see any root cause or some commonality to create more awareness and that their rights on the other hand, also the sense of humanity? Did you find something in your activities how you can awaken this awareness? I'm talking to Amara and also Jamal, because also there's a Balochistan in Pakistan, but also in Iran. So maybe some kind of commonality ground on that.
The basic thing that I said earlier, in Balochistan there is a political movement going on, which is against any sort of inhuman actions. I think everything that I was taught during the process of being a political activist was to be a human first, and that is the core belief of United Nations, that everyone deserves human rights. We were taught to have our human rights, and we were taught to treat others as human beings, as equals. So I think this should be the most common link between any individual on this earth, that we all deserve to be humans. On this basis, don't think that we are separate from the people who are working at United Nations, because we are the defenders of human rights. If we are targeted, that means entire humanity is targeted, because we talk of human rights. We were not being paid. We did everything voluntarily. We worked for everyone in Balochistan that is being forcibly disappeared. Mostly the majority are those who are fed up against inhuman practices of Pakistan. So for me, it's you can say it's an emotional statement or anything, but I think the most common link between us is being humans. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, from my side also, the story is always when you explain to us the situation about Balochistan come deep in our heart. I was just asking if now the minority of Pakistan, is there a way that we can work, bring the group together and work together? Because the main problem is the political and the army. So I think we should, is it possible that the Sindhi, the Baloch, Ahmadis, and other groups can work together to make one more stronger alliance to survive and to fight against this terror against their own citizens?
Is it on or is not on? I think.
Now,
Yeah.
yes.
Now in Balochistan, there is a saying that when you're drowning, you catch anything to survive. So I think all the minorities in Pakistan are drowning right now. So it's the best option for each one of us, each other's hands to survive. It's we have also been politically we have been raising awareness on this that we should have an alliance in Pakistan, like for other minorities which are struggling for their human rights. We have been successful in some things, like we always organize seminars with Sindhis and Pashtuns as well, who are being targeted in Pakistan. Also, Muhajirs, we have been trying to communicate with them, and there is a possibility if each community decides to hold each other's hand tightly so that we can fight Pakistan. I think, but it's always on everyone's side. The equal efforts should be put, like if I'm putting 100% efforts, on the other side there is less effort, so there won't be any possibility, but each of us should put some efforts to make an alliance. Very crucial, I believe, and it's a very important point that you highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. Now to conclude, Professor Lebrat is gonna give you some words for the conclusion, and I really hope from this event we can have some insightful thoughts, and then we can leave this room with this crucial issue like uh, in our heads, and then we can keep working towards these video calls. So please, Professor Lebrat, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, but we still have 10 minutes, so I don't know if there are other questions because I will unfortunately not speak for 10 minutes. It will be too depressing. Because, yes, the situation is very painful as regards human rights. And one thing, it is true that here there is a Human Rights Council and there is a strong focus on human rights within the UN. The missions here, the representative of states are working on issues of human rights. There are many NGOs advocating human rights, but no, unfortunately, this is not what is at the heart of the organization. Article 2, paragraph 1 of the Charter says that the organization is based on the equal sovereignty of states. And unfortunately, that is above human rights in the current system. And as I said, it is for states to guarantee, to implement human rights, not for the UN directly. There may be situations, yes, you may have a special envoy, yeah, you may have some specific organization trying to deal with some material aspects of human rights violation or situation, but again and again and again, it is for states to have the primary responsibility to implement human rights, and states make very often a balance between their sovereign interests and the promotion or the defense of human rights. It's not that I want to say that. I would another type of organization, but I think we have to be lucid. We have to know how it works, what is the interest at play. Now, there is two other points I would like to also come back on. First, Jamal, you said that when the human rights of one are abducted, it's the whole humanity which somehow is hurt in its dignity, and it's as a holder, we're all holders of these human rights. And I can see now in my practice as special reporter on minority issues, and it is true that in 1948, when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted, minority issues were not put into the declaration because, as the General Assembly said at that time, there are specific and different situations in every country. But still, that is no excuse. And I think you made a very important point. And the universality of human rights need to be promoted, sure, by state if they, I'm not, I don't find the word in English. It's a fairly pejorative one, so maybe it's better. I don't find it. Uh, but if they accept doing it, let's say, but first by human rights defender. And I'm here quite often in this room because I'm based in Geneva, so I have the occasion. And it is true. And I understand each group defends its own human rights, its own specific situation, but maybe it would also be important for human rights defender to put forward this universal character of human rights. So yes, you defending you right, you fighting against enforced disappearance, and yes, it is a very serious problem. And by the way, interestingly, this is one of the special rapporteur visits that took place to Pakistan in 2012. The one also about violence against women. So it's not that this is not addressed, but again, it is separated in different events, different special rapporteur, and yes, there is special rapporteur on freedom of religion and belief. So is it a religion and belief issue or a minority issue? And there are some indigenous people and minority. Is it different? And I'm afraid because again, I don't think any state promotes the universality of human rights. I'm very sorry to say. So we have to do it ourselves. And I think it would be extremely strong and important that every time any group to promote a specific human rights, denounce a specific situation, it makes it clear that it is a universal problem, even though it has a specific manifestation in Balochistan, in Sindh, in whichever, in Switzerland, maybe it can be anywhere. But this universality, if we think it is important, and I personally am convinced that it is absolutely central, I think it would be for human rights to insist on it. Still, specific causes, and for example, with my mandate given by the Human Rights Council, I'm very careful only to address issues linked to minority issues because this is what I've been asked to do, and this is what type of legitimacy has been recognized to me by the Human Rights Council. So it would not make sense that I sign statements, press release, other issues, but defending minorities, defending women's rights, defending children's rights, defending, you can go on and on and on and on. It is always a universal human rights being defended. And I think if we can out of this meeting is precisely that it is important to always insist beyond the specific cause, which naturally has to be taken into account. And as I said, I'm a believe that universal protection of human rights is being promoted de facto. And so I think we still have to work on a small step approach. Let's try to improve situation where they can be improved and not to have this grand design and hoping that at some point everything will be fine. But by doing that, always stress that this is the fight for dimension of human rights. And again, if you read clearly Article 1 of the Universal Declaration, it's not only human rights, but it's also human dignity. And I think both are important. So thank you very much. Maybe you should have some concluding words. Thank you for this very useful and enriching panel. And yes, I hope we can also have small steps or big steps, but let's start with small steps. And if big steps come, that will be even better. Thank you.
Thank you again, Professor. I think that was a perfect conclusion for the event. And again, I want to thank you all for being here, for being committed with the cause. In the name of GHRD, we are very happy to have all of you here, and we hope to see you in future events. Thank you very much. And just to conclude, just a quick information, we have all our reports here available if some of you wants to consult, to take it, to read and go through it. We have it here, so it's just just have to approach some of us. And again, thank you for your presence here today. Perfect timing because we need some time to leave it.
Yeah, that's okay. We could have 2 or 3 more minutes, but that's okay. Usually you see the lady next there, she tries to stop.
Okay,
All
okay.
the time, push people out. I see it all the time. But I'm sure there's one starting at 1, so they'll be happy to have 2 more minutes to get in.
Can you come, we make a picture with the team?